Okay, class, this is the third video of the introduction, and this should be fairly short. What I'm trying to do in this video is introduce you to some of the concepts that will be repeated throughout the course and make you aware of them. Okay, so there's just a couple of things and some subparts to each of these that we need to talk about. The first one is something I made up, sort of, and it's what I call street law. Lawyers talk about this sometimes, but I have a particular way in which I use this. So what I mean by street law is I mean things that you may have or other people have learned and think is the law, but is not actually the law. And this is a real challenge for those of us who are lawyers, because a lot of times this means that not only are we trying to teach something, but we're trying to unteach something as well. Let me give you an example. One of the areas that this comes into actual being in the legal field that I ran into quite often was the concept of custody of a child that's born to parents who weren't married. Okay, there is a concept or a street law view that both the mother and father have equal rights to that child. That is simply not the law in Georgia. In Georgia, only the mother has legal rights with regard to a child born out of wedlock unless the father goes to court and legitimates that child. We'll be talking more about that when we talk about family law and domestic relations, but I just want to point out to you the effect that that has. I used to actually get calls from people saying that they had a child that was born out of wedlock, that the father had come over to the mother's house, had grabbed the baby and was leaving with the baby, and she called the police, and she would put the policeman on the phone, and the policeman would say, "There's nothing I can do. He has possession, and there's nothing I can do about it." And I would have to actually read him the law and explain to the police that that was not the law, that he had no rights to a child born out of wedlock unless he legitimated the child. So that's a real life situation where street law can interfere with real law. Okay, the next thing I want to introduce you to is the concept of what's known as terms of art. So what is a term of art? A term of art is a word that is used in a particular area, and its meaning in that area is different than its common meaning in the world outside of that specific area. So more importantly, what we're talking about is terms that I will be mentioning during the semester that are terms of art in the law. And what that means is that in the legal field, they have a different meaning than what you commonly use in layman's terms or in a regular dictionary perhaps. So some examples of those, which I'm not going to define what they mean as a term of art now, I will when we go through the course, but some examples of that are the word goodwill, the word information, the word prescription, and the word reporter. Those are just some examples. I actually went through the glossary in the back of the book and pulled out some of them. They are not probably the best examples. We will see some of those as we go through the course. So for this last video, two things that we covered: street law and terms of art. If anybody has any questions about any of those, please feel free to contact me. Make sure you keep these things in mind, okay, as we go through the course.